Hello, welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 49 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we're discussing chapter 48 of A Game of Thrones, that's Jon 6.
As always, we'll chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you. And hopefully we'll provide you with some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what's happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the TV show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some reader mail. Be sure to check out the show notes, especially if you're not reading along, because they'll help you with some of the characters and things that happen in the chapter.
Yep. So folks, before we get started, we want to ask a favor of you. We'd like you to please go to whatever platform you use to enjoy us each week and leave us a 5-star review. You really can't imagine how much a little podcast like ours depends on listener feedback. So after this episode, please leave us a quick 5-star rating, and we'd be incredibly appreciative.
Actually, I've seen what's coming. Maybe they should do it now.
Before this episode starts, pause it and give us the review.
And then don't go back afterwards. It's fine.
Yes.
No, I'm just kidding. Thanks. We would really appreciate that. So how are you?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Yeah. Not too bad. So we're doubling up again this week because I've got my vacation next week.
That's right.
I'm all packed.
You're going in the other direction. We head to the coast.
I'm going to the mountains where there's less coronavirus.
And less heat and humidity, so.
And less people.
All positives in my book.
I showed you that I'm packed. All I've packed is board games.
Yes, so you look like you got all the essentials covered.
What you didn't see in that picture was, so I think there were 9 board games stacked up ready to go. I've inside those boxes are another different 9 board games as well.
Wow.
So there's actually 18 board games in there.
But way to get creative with your packing.
Exactly, I don't have room in the car for all 18, so I had to.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm going to take Carson and Lucas with me.
Right. Well, you need someone to play the board games with, so.
Good point. That's why they get to come along.
That's it. Oh, man. We're trying to buy a car.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah.
How's that going?
Ugh. I hate buying a car. We don't need to. I mean, it's not like any of our cars have died. I don't have any wood to knock on. I'll have to use my forehead. It's just that, I've been driving our minivan for the past 12 years without complaint, and I will still keep driving it without complaint. I've given up on looking cool a long time ago. I do a Song of Ice and Fire podcast, so.
Yeah, that's all the cool you need right there.
But the van is getting quite aged. It's rather much closer to Maester Aemon than to Jon Snow. So.
Well, that's not strictly true, is it? I mean, it is actually closer to Jon Snow, but I guess minivan years are like dog years.
Exactly. Yes. In minivan years, in human years, the van is very close in age to Jon. Jon just has her by a couple years. But the thing is yes, I know it is a very old minivan, but it fits me like a glove. Like, I know every noise, everything, every feeling about that car. I can tell you when something's off. We've been all around the country together, so it's gonna, regardless, even if I replace her with a very fancy ride, I will still have trouble separating myself from her, as I am a nostalgic old softie.
Yes.
Maybe I'll just park her. Maybe I'll park her in the back and turn her into like a garden or something,
That would look real classy.
Yes.
Sell the tires. Put some bricks under her.
I'm sure the neighbors would love that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Last night I staggered to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and we've invested in blackout curtains so that our bedroom is seriously dark in the night. I mean, like you open your eyes and nothing changes.
Right. I love that kind of darkness to sleep in.
Oh yeah, me too. Now our dog is white, so if there was any light at all, I would have seen her.
Uh-oh.
but she's got a dog bed. She's got 2 dog beds either side of the door. And she almost always sleeps in those dog beds. But last night she just lay in the doorway and I stood on her.
Oh, no.
I trod on the dog.
Oh.
And she yelped and skidded out across the room.
Oh, man.
She was so terrified. And I was just too tired to deal with it. I was like,
just kept shuffling back to bed. So you almost snapped Twiggy.
I did feel bad. I've told you my other story about wandering around in the dark in my house. When our son was little, we used to go to a grocery store where they would give the kids a free helium balloon. You know this story, yeah?
Yeah, but the listeners don't, so go on.
And he would always get these helium balloons, and he would bring them home, and then he would lose interest in them, so they would just float up to the ceiling. But they weren't high quality, so they wouldn't last very long, and sort of like within 24 hours they would dwindle and they would fall to the ground.
Yeah, or at least eye level.
Well, that's what happened. I went to the bathroom in the night and I'm walking up the hallway in the empty house where I know, just like you know your minivan, I know my house, and I should not walk face first into anything, and I walked face first into his balloon.
It's only Stella.
And I did like karate moves. I was like,
Stella put that there. You know this.
It's the return vent of our HVAC system is right there, so it got drawn to that.
Oh.
You see. That's why it was there.
Yeah, but it didn't have the helium to get sucked up to the ceiling.
And then it slowly lost helium, so it came down to my eye level. And I just walked face first into that thing. It scared me something rotten. That one.
That's good stuff. I love that story.
Yeah. All right, let's get down to... We can chat a little because it's not a very long chat.
Right,
Let's get down to business. We are here to talk about the book.
I think so.
Last time we saw John, he and most of his crew were told that they would be graduating to full membership of the Night's Watch. Sam was the member of the crew who was not going to be graduating. Well, Sam and Rast, but Rast is on the outside of the crew. So that would leave Sam in the tender mercies of Rast and the new recruits and Sir Alistair Thorne. So John, seeing Sam's plight and seeing how upset Sam was about it, went to Maester Aemon to intercede on Sam's behalf and hope that Sam could get graduated too. So why don't we give them the summary of this chapter?
What's going to happen? I think we'll find out right now. So John's breakfast is pleasantly disturbed by news from Sam that he too is to graduate. Hurrah!
Yay!
Yeah! And he's to become an attendant to Maester Aemon, an oddly perfect fit.
Result.
John feigns surprise, but doesn't have to feign pleasure. They hurry to join the other graduates in the sept, where the heads of the Night's Watch are gathered, and Mormont gives a speech inviting anyone who has cold feet, metaphorically of course, to leave now. Once the vows have been said, there is no going back.
He invites anyone who follows the old gods to say theirs in what passes for a godswood at the wall, basically the entire forest north of the wall. Sam has a Damascene conversion and decides to go with John. The new gods have never exactly answered Sam's prayers, he points out, not entirely inaccurately.
Mormont gets out the old sorting hat and announces the assignments to each new recruit. Halder's going to the builders, big shock there. Gren, Pip, and Totter to the rangers, and Sam, Darren, and John to the stewards. Wait, what? John? To the stewards? That's John's reaction as well. And then he sees Sir Alistair Thorne's dark eyes twinkle with delight. Lord Steward Bowen Marsh confirms that Sam will attend Maester Aemon, and he'll have a place to sleep as Chett has been reassigned to the kennels. Uh-oh. Another brother of the Night's Watch, adding John and possibly Sam to their, let's say, naughty list.
Yeah. Darian, being something of a gourmand, will be sent to Eastwatch to do a better job of purchasing food from merchants there.
Not a bad gig.
And John... No, that's not a bad gig, I mean, like, basically sampling the wares and saying, your olives are not good enough for the Night's Watch.
Right.
John will be attending Sir Jorah Mormont, the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. John questions if he'll be making his bed, emptying his chamber pot, etc. And Bowen Marsh, impressed by how quickly his new recruit is catching on, confirms. John asks if they take him for a servant. Maester Aemon pipes in with, "We took you for a man of the night's watch. Maybe we were wrong."
Ooh, sick burn, Maester Aemon.
Yeah.
John continues to rant, but Sam points out that they're grooming John for command. John is ashamed not to have noticed and humbled by Sam's willingness to accept his lot. That evening, they pass under the wall through 3 locked gates. Once north, Ghost runs free while Sam and John proceed to the 9 werewoods in a circle. They say their vows while Marsh and a few rangers attend.
So Sam and John kneel down and say, "Night gathers and now my watch begins. It shall not end until my death. I shall take no wife, hold no lands, father no children. I shall wear no crowns and win no glory. I shall live and die at my post. I am the sword in the darkness. I am the watcher on the walls. I am the fire that burns against the cold, the light that brings the dawn, the horn that wakes the sleepers, the shield that guards the realms of men. I pledge my life and honour to the Night's Watch for this night and all nights to come."
Wow. Intense. And you can hear the cheers from Catelyn Stark wherever she is.
Because I said it? Oh, because John said it. Yeah,
John said it.
You hear the cheers from my wife.
Marsh tells them that they knelt as boys, but now rise as men. The forester Dywin says that they should be getting back, that there's something not right in the air. And right at that moment, Ghost trots back to the group with a human hand in his mouth.
So once again, just as things get exciting in King's Landing, we're torn away and forced to sort of... but it is a moment. It's a big moment for John and Sam.
It is. It is not much more than a moment, though. You know, this all takes place in a matter of like a few hours. So
yeah,
but
and we can stop telling John to not say the vows now.
Right. Yeah, it's too late
because he said them.
Yep.
We could try a new tack. We could, John, break the vows. Break the vows.
Just change your clothes. They won't be able to tell you apart from anyone else in the 7 kingdoms. It's not like they got social security cards or anything. Anyway, so John is really, he's starting to accumulate a handful of enemies here.
Oh, yeah.
He's got
because
Thorn, Rast, and now possibly Chett. I mean, it's not known for sure, but Chett's going from what feels like an awfully cushy job looking out for Maester Aemon to the kennels.
Right, and he didn't like it when John was talking to Maester Aemon. Remember, he was sort of fussing over John's presence there, and telling him to get out. And now, after that conversation, he's living in the kennels. It's like, yay! Thank you, John.
Yeah, and if you remember the last John chapter, it mentioned that Chett is a rather angry person, and you got the impression. It was more than just an impression. He made it quite clear he thought that Sam was a fat, cowardly kid, and now this kid is taking over his turf. So
we'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes.
Maybe Chett really likes dogs and he'll be perfectly happy.
That's right. Got to look on the positive side here.
Yeah. But I mean, so basically, our 2 heroes here, John and Sam, one of them has received devastating news from the Sorting Hat, and the other one has received the best possible news.
Right, yeah.
Because Sam, this couldn't be better for him. I mean, he is essentially protected from having to fight, which is really good news for the Night's Watch too.
Yes, everyone involved is better off if Sam doesn't have to fight.
And he can actually use his genuine skills because he is, he's got reading and writing skills.
Yeah.
He's a smart thinker. He's perfect for being an attendant to and potential replacement for Maester Aemon.
Yeah, sure. Now, you would think that this should not have fallen on the shoulders of a fellow recruit to spot this obvious situation here and point it out to the higher-ups. But up until Jon had his heart ripped out by being made a steward instead of a ranger, he must have been feeling pretty great about how this all came to pass. One, he knows the role that he played. He knows that he went well above and beyond what he was supposed to do, and it all worked out, and the higher-ups listened to him and took his advice. That's got to be a pretty good feeling. And he's helped his good friend out of a really tough situation.
Yeah, I mean, we made the point at the time that the higher-ups should have spotted this originally.
Yeah.
And it's possible that, because this kind of military organization, typically, you would not reward someone who did that kind of insubordination.
Right.
Who went to his superiors to tell him that his direct superior was making a mistake. Typically, that isn't well received.
No, it's frowned upon in most establishments.
Exactly. So, but I think in this case, they needed to clear out the recruits.
Right.
And Sam's going nowhere. He's not going to get better the longer he stays in basic training.
That was Jon's whole point. He's not going to ever pass the basic training.
So, I just wonder if perhaps this intervention might have happened anyway. No, Jon should feel good about it. Jon saved the day here.
It sure looked like he did, unless they were already planning on doing the same thing. It didn't look like things were going to go very well for Sam.
Yeah.
But I thought the speech that Lord Commander Mormont gave about the Night's Watch being one house was a kind of a cool speech. For those who aren't reading along, he talked about how they came, these recruits, soon to be brothers, came to us as criminals, rapers, poachers, killers, and thieves, rich and poor. Some had names of great houses, some had bastard names or no names at all, and that's all in the past now. Here on the wall, we're all one house. Hip, hip, hooray. He didn't do that part. I ad-libbed that.
So Geo Mormont's son, of course, is Jorah Mormont.
Yep.
Attendant to Daenerys Targaryen. And if you remember, he was chased out of Westeros. Ned was going to introduce him to ice.
Yep. Not a pleasant introduction either.
I wonder if he was going to get the option of going to the wall.
Yeah, that was the exact same thing I was thinking at this section. Was it seemed like he was coming to behead him, and I wondered if that was due to his rank, due to the fact that he was Lord of Bear Island and he committed this crime, that it was a bigger deal than just your average Joe. I don't know. I honestly can't remember if there was more to it or not off the top of my head.
I think, I'm going to speculate here because I don't remember exactly either. I imagine that he would have given him the choice because Ned believed in the Night's Watch.
Right.
And he would see the value in someone like Jorah Mormont at the wall.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So
he's certainly a lot more useful to the realm at the wall than he is as a exile in Essos.
Right.
But
absolutely.
If you remember,
or in two pieces.
Yes. Short by about a head. Anyway, I was about to say but if you remember, but then I just realized that was a spoiler, that what I was about to say has not been brought up yet. So forget
Exciting.
that I said that.
Yeah. Way ahead of you. One of the other things that Geo Mormont says is that you are the only sons we shall ever know.
Ouch.
Which again, thinking back to Jorah, that's a bit of a... I suppose that really only applies to... No, well, I mean, there are a lot of fathers here on the wall.
Probably, sure, yeah. A lot of these guys came to it late, not like at Jon's age of 14 or so. And he didn't say, you all are the only sons that many of these fine folks no, he said that we shall ever know. So, ow, that stings a bit.
I guess we shall ever know going forward, but you did know your sons in the past, you know.
Right. Yeah.
He hasn't forgotten Jorah, I'm sure, you know. He may have disowned him at this point, but he hasn't forgotten.
Right. So he cautions them to think carefully before they take the vow, because there's no going back once you take the black, which I liked how he rhymed that there, kind of.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize he freestyled
That's
that.
right.
That was good.
Penalty for breaking your vow equals death. So.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's the nature of a vow. There's no going back from it.
Theoretically. Mm-hmm. I do have a piece of pedantry about this that I'll bring up in. It seems like a fitting place would be Pedantry Corner for such a thing.
Let's do that. Yes, good. John's the only member of the recruiting class who actually had faith in the old gods. But Sam gets up and wants to go with him, signaling that at no point have the new gods ever done anything for him.
Yeah.
None of his prayers have ever been answered.
Right.
And so
he's sitting at the wall for crying out loud. So
yeah, exactly.
Clearly, not many were answered.
How much worse could it get? Let me try the old gods.
Yeah. And if you recall, we've talked about this several times now about how the blood of the first men flow through the Stark's veins, minus Catelyn Stark, of course. They are a very ancient house that date well back to the first men.
Yep.
So the Sorting Hat goes along as expected up until Jon gets sent to the Stewards. And then
Although I got to say, I wasn't convinced that all three of Pip, Gren, and Todder would end up in the Rangers.
Yeah.
It felt like they weren't that good with the sword, right. At least before Jon taught them a bit. I guess
it just goes to show how shocked, dismayed, and angry Jon must be about this whole thing. He's like, those guys? Those guys are Rangers? And I'm cleaning bed sheets and washing small clothes?
I taught them everything they know. Literally. Everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt like a whole record scratching scene when he says Jon. But then, Mormont, he kind of glossed over it. He didn't even pause. He just kept rolling. But I kind of felt like, I mean, obviously I knew that Jon was going to the Stewards and not to the Rangers. But reading it along, I felt like it seemed a little bit maybe too obvious that Jon was going to the Rangers, because it was constantly being brought up. Well, Halder's, there's two things for certain. Halder's going to the Builders and Jon's going to the Rangers. When you're a first Ranger like your uncle.
I have a little speculation here for you. I wonder if he was going to the Rangers until he interceded on Sam's behalf.
I thought that's where you were going with that earlier when you said that there's usually punishment for going above your supervisor.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Not necessarily that it's punishment, just the sense that, this kid sees the big picture.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So, not as punishment, but as, this kid's, he's smarter than we thought. This is a really good idea that he came up with here.
Right. And possibly tinged with a little, and let's punish him for doing it, too.
It's definitely going to piss him off.
Exactly. Yeah. So Jon gets uppity when he hears all the duties he'll have to perform. And when he asks if he's taken for a servant, Maester Aemon, who isn't actually part of the conversation, jumps in with, presumably not jumps in, he's 98 years old. Volunteers, we took you for a man of the Night's Watch. Perhaps we were wrong, which is pretty good put down.
It is. Oof, that's got to hurt, too, because Maester Aemon's like the oracle of the Night's Watch. He's like the most respected person up there. And the translation is basically, quit being a baby and see the gift that's being offered here.
Yeah.
Which is...
But he doesn't justify the gift. He doesn't explain the gift. It's Sam and Darian that explain the gift to Jon.
Yeah.
Because this isn't just a dismissal of him. This is, sure, there are aspects of this that Jon's going to hate. I'm pretty sure there were going to be aspects of being a ranger Jon was going to hate too.
Right, yeah.
Like riding around in the snow, cold and bored for months on end.
There's downsides to that, no doubt.
Right. But he'll be listening to, and one thing we didn't actually mention in the recap is that both Sam and Darian take it a little, they take some offense that Jon sees what they were given as their Night's Watch jobs as a punishment, as a slap in the face, as a what do you take me for?
Right.
They're like, hey.
Yeah, Darren fires back and says, the stewards are fine for the likes of you and me, Sam, but not for the likes of Lord Snow.
Yeah.
And that's when Jon explains, I'm the best swordsman and the best rider out of everyone, and here I am. But that's when, Sam does his explanation. He kind of, he explains that, sure, there's menial tasks involved, but you'll also be basically getting on-the-job training from Lord Commander Mormont, that you'll be reading his letters and attending meetings with him, and you'll be his squire during battle against Grumpkins and Snarks. and then he explains about how when Sam was little, he and his father used to make him attend all these kind of things, all his meetings, and when he'd have to go to Highgarden to pledge his fealty to Mace Tyrell, he'd have to go with him, until all of a sudden his younger brother Dickon was in that role, and his dad really couldn't have cared less what Sam was up to. And that reminds that reminds Jon that the same thing was happening with Ned and Robb, and that's when it kind of dawns on him that, maybe Sam's right. Maybe this is a gift that I'm being given here.
Yeah.
And then, so once he realizes, oh man, I've been acting like a total brat, and he's ashamed about his reaction. And then he remembers one of the last things his uncle said to him before heading north of the Wall was, on the Wall, a man gets what he earns. Of course, unless you're Sir Waymar Royce, then you just get command of a party, even though
maybe gets what he deserves.
Yes. And if you remember way back in Jon 1, the very first Jon chapter, when they were at the feast, he tells his uncle that Maester Lewin told him that the bastards grow up faster than other children, and then he thinks, on the Wall, you grow up or you die, so I better grow up, be a man about my assignment, and embrace it.
You know what? You said something there that just triggered something in my head. I wonder, this is Jon 6, right? This is the sixth chapter we've had with Jon as the main character, as the point of view character.
Yep.
I wonder in how many of those chapters Jon has gone through a cycle of acting like a bit of an ass, having someone point it out to him, and him coming round to stopping acting like an ass.
Wow, excellent observation, because it might be just about every Jon chapter.
Just about every Jon chapter. He gets into a sulk about something, and then someone pulls him out of that sulk.
Yeah. So far, the only one that I can think of, or maybe he didn't, was Jon 2 when he's saying his goodbyes. Other than that,
maybe
I think just about every chapter he's done some rash, childlike behavior, and then someone, mentor type, pointed it out to him and he realized, oh, whoops, you're right. Good news is he's coachable.
Yeah, that's true. Quite quickly too.
Yeah.
Within just a couple of pages, he's back on track again. But, yeah. So they go north of the Wall. In the Bowen Marsh, as head of the stewards, goes with them.
Yeah.
Because they're both going to be stewards, and a couple of other rangers and a forester, Daiwin the forester.
Yep, sounds
which
right.
is interesting because I guess that's a role that's required to keep the forest from growing all the way up to the Wall.
Sure. Yeah.
To keep that. And that's a ton of chopping down.
Yeah.
When you think about it,
it's a big forest.
They try to keep it like a mile back from the Wall, and the Wall's a few hundred miles long.
Yes.
I mean, that's big. That's bigger than my yard, and I don't like chopping stuff down in my yard.
Less poison ivy, though, so it's a trade-off.
True. It's growing back. Stuff is wild.
Oh, man. That never goes well for you.
No. But Jon notes that when they do get north of the Wall, through the tunnel with the 3 locked gates, and Bowen Marsh is the only one with a key, which did make me wonder, this might be pedantry, but it made me wonder how people can easily get back and forth through that gate if only Bowen Marsh carries the key.
Probably he was the only one that carries the key from this group that was going north, maybe.
Right, but you'd think that anyone who goes north of the Wall... I guess anyone who goes north of the wall shouldn't carry a key,
Right.
in case he's captured by wildlings. But Bowen Marsh goes with them, so they've broken that rule right
Yes,
here
that's
and there.
true. Yeah. Maybe he passed it off to someone to run back in. But they do leave it under the mat. They do, the spare key is under the mat at the last gate, so just in case. It's one of those plastic rocks, those hide key rocks.
And as they look, there's 200 miles of rocks. They're like, it's one of these.
Oh, man.
We're silly.
We are.
Yeah. So John notes that everything feels different north of the wall. They've basically ridden past the end of the world.
Yeah, and he says, well, I don't think he says it. He thinks it, that the wall is behind them now, and the gods only know what's in front of them. So that's kind of a disquieting feeling, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it really must be disquieting, you know? I mean,
Yeah.
the wall is the edge of the known universe to everybody who's not in the Night's Watch, basically.
Right.
And to go north of it and realize there's a lot more of the world that way.
You know, it probably feels like I felt the first time on an airplane. Like, whoa, I am in uncharted territories here in my life. The ground is way down there, and I'm on this little can in the middle of the air.
Yeah. So, so they dismount, leave the horses outside the circle of weirwoods.
Yeah.
And John and Sam drop to their knees and recite the vows, which they've got memorized. It doesn't say they're reading them, so they've got them memorized.
Yeah.
And as we heard, that they're noble and moving. The words.
Yeah, they're very cool. Regardless of whether they're guarding against Grumpkins or White Walkers, it was a very impressive vow. So I'll give them that.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes.
That's what the mat that hides the key says. No Grumpkins allowed. The Grumpkins are like, ugh, foiled.
Foiled again.
So, do we think Sam is right? I mean, I think basically we've come up with 2 reasons for why this has happened to John. One is purely a punishment, purely punitive. We're going to make you sorry that you interfered in the running of the Night's Watch by giving you a crappy job for the rest of your life. Seems a little harsh.
It does indeed.
But Sam's theory that they're grooming him for command does make some sense. But it feels to me like he would be a better commander. I mean, he's young. He's only 15. He might be a better commander of the Night's Watch if he did 3 or 4 years as a ranger.
Right.
And then became a steward during Mormont.
Yeah, you would think if he was truly grooming him, like if he was in the management executive training program, that he would almost be obligated to do time in each group so he can have an understanding for their needs and stuff. So maybe he's just starting with the stewards.
Yeah, possibly, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think it's got to be that, though. I mean, I think it has to be grooming for command because otherwise they're shooting themselves in the foot. They've actually got, as Mormont and Aemon have said, they are short of people who are skilled with swords.
Yeah, yeah.
They've got one. Why keep him from the front?
Yeah. I guess
when I say the front, of course, that's all theoretical because they don't seem to fight with anyone.
Yeah, we haven't seen it
There's a wall between them and anyone they would choose to fight.
Right. Choosing to fight is the key. They could choose to fight. They don't have to if they don't want to. There's a 700-foot wall preventing them if they don't feel like it.
If I was Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, there'd be a lot less ranging.
Yeah, you keep the wall free and clear. Just let them do whatever the heck they want on the other side of that wall.
Exactly. We can all do that. Come on, boys. Bit of gardening. Back south of the wall for a couple of wineskins in Moletown. Come on. We've kind of made this point already. They're grooming him for command because he's smart and he's castle trained and all those things that make him a potential leader. But he does have dubious judgment. I mean, that's what we've pointed out.
Yeah.
Pretty much every time we see him, he gets into a sulk and a pout about something, which somebody then points out to him is not what he thinks it is, and then he comes around.
Yeah, I guess you have to hope that's just immaturity. That he will grow out of that as he gets older and more experienced, more worldly, and kind of figures out how to see things better for what they are, I guess. Although he does see things pretty well for what they are sometimes. I mean, he's the one that came up with the plan to get Sam out of there.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be good if he could do it without help, though. I mean, hey, he can surround himself with good advisors, but it's the Night's Watch. There aren't a ton of good people to choose from.
It's true. Mentors are a little lacking in
exactly.
Night's Watch.
Basically, the only guy that can read is 100. He's not going to be a long-term advisor.
Solid point. So if it played out that Thorne did tell Mormont that Jon was not cut out for the Rangers, like he was a terrible fighter or whatever, that would again show some really bad oversight by Mormont. So he must have had reason beyond that.
Yes, I agree. I don't see how he could have stayed on as Lord Commander of the Night's Watch if he allowed such an obvious diamond to be abused by Alistair Thorne. I mean, you couldn't not see it.
Right.
If he ever walked past the practice yard just one time, he'd be like, whoa.
Yeah, that guy.
That kid knows what he's doing.
Yeah. I mean, especially right now, they've possibly lost Benjen Stark, and the Rangers could certainly use a fighter like Jon. He would be a huge asset. But of course, maybe Mormont's looking at, yes, he is a huge asset with his sword, but his other talents are even more valuable.
Right. And maybe that's the thought that they've lost Benjen is perhaps part of it. Maybe Benjen was being groomed for Lord Commander.
Right.
And they want to keep Jon close now because he's the natural replacement. I'm not sure how old Gio Mormont is, though. It feels like he's not. I mean...
Yeah, well, his son would be in his 30s-ish, so he's probably 50, 60, something like that.
Yeah. I mean, Maester Aemon showing that, that cold weather can keep you young.
That's right.
But yeah, I mean, it goes without saying, Jon would be a decent Lord Commander of the Night's Watch compared to most of the people up here.
I wonder if Maester Aemon... No, you would think he'd be in on it if he knew that this was the plan to have him be being groomed. It seemed kind of like it when he gave him that subtle reprimand in the sept. It seemed like he was kind of trying to let Jon figure it out for himself. Hey, you are brothers of the Night's Watch. You got to keep your eyes open and think this through a little better. Don't just lash out like a child. Yeah. But of course, Thorne seemed to be completely unaware of any master plan like that because he was awfully smiley. You don't think he'd be so smiley if he knew we're grooming him to be your boss.
Well, but I mean, he would take malicious delight in Jon's unhappiness with the immediacy of it.
That's true. He would.
He would enjoy that.
Seeing Jon so upset, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
But it made me wonder, if not for the idea of learning from Mormont, if he was just being put in the Stewards, not to...
because they thought he would be the best small clothes washer.
Right. Would he have taken the vow? Or would he have been like, that's it, I'm out of here, people. I was on the fence to begin with.
So you mean it's all Sam's fault that Jon's taken the vow?
That could
what
be.
What we've been hectoring for all along could have happened.
Right, yep. If
wash your own underwear.
Sam hadn't opened his big mouth. Yeah. But I also wondered, is there a lateral movement? You'd think there would be, if someone starts out as a steward and then really wants to be a ranger, proves himself capable and moves to ranger.
Yeah, you could certainly imagine a ranger getting tired of it and wanting to do something a little more sedate, a little more...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Wash some...
Yeah, but as we say, as you said, I think it would be good for the Lord Commander to have tried them all, so maybe.
Yeah. So Ghost comes trotting back. They're getting ready to leave, as we mentioned in the summary. that we're getting ready to leave the cluster of werewoods, and Dywin, the forester, says, yeah, let's get out of here. There's something not right in the air. And right then, Ghost comes trotting back with a hand in his mouth. So, what's with that? Hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's not Benjen's hand.
Well, I don't think there were any distinguishing marks on it as far as they could tell.
Right.
They didn't mention them.
I wondered if it was still moving. You know, like thing, like a White Walker.
It's
hand.
north of the wall.
Yeah.
Who knows what goes on?
I did actually really wonder if maybe it was a metaphor for Ned in King's Landing. He's a hand of the king that's been severed from his king and now is in mortal danger.
That's very good.
Maybe I'm thinking it through. Maybe I've read this chapter a few too many times.
Well, no, but I mean, the timing of the chapter does suggest that a little bit.
Yeah, that all just happened, and
yeah,
here we are.
Yeah. All right, so to background.
So, John, so it's done. The vows have been said. I wouldn't want to go back on a vow and sit in front of that lot of werewoods with their weepy, creepy faces. Kat got what she hoped for, so she can rest easy now. So let's take a look at what, if anything, John has given up as far as inheritance goes. So according to Martin, he based Westerosi inheritance laws on those in real medieval history. So they're nothing if not vague and at times contradictory.
So he based it on something vague and contradictory. Good. That's a good starting point for us.
Yes. So the male-centric primogeniture is the custom in all the kingdoms but Dorne. However, that's not a binding law. Basically, the oldest son is heir, followed by the second son, and so forth. Theoretically, the youngest son is followed by the eldest daughter, and then we start the female birth order. And after the daughter line, then comes the father's brother. So if I was thinking about it, if Brandon hadn't died, Ned could have found himself way down the succession line if Brandon and Kat had had a few children.
In the same way that Benjen has done.
Yeah, right. Because Benjen is the youngest of the children, so he was way down the line now.
Yeah, in fact, there was some talk about that with Benjen, wasn't there? That he hung around at Winterfell until Ned got back from the Robert's uprising.
Yeah.
Because then he knew he had no chance, and then he went to the wall.
Yeah, he was the Stark in Winterfell during Robert's Rebellion. And I guess if Ned had died, depending on... Well, Kat was already pregnant with Robb. So he would have been second to the baby Robb, I guess.
Yeah.
But he would have probably been
once Ned got back safely, then he was demoted, and likeliness that Ned would have more children, and so he would fall further behind.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, all that said, it's basically up to the Lord to pick and choose his heir as he sees fit, whether it be one of his children or possibly a child outside of his own.
For instance, the Tarleys.
Right, exactly. When there is no clear heir, the king often sorts it out, or the widow of a lord can claim her husband's lands and rule herself if there is no clear heir in place. Now remember I said that Dorne was different earlier. In Dorne, there is no distinction between sons and daughters. It's straight up birth order regardless of gender, which stems from their Royanish roots. Think Princess Nymeria, if you recall.
Yay, Princess Nymeria.
Yeah, talked about her a few times in the past. Now let's look at natural-born children. If they're not legitimized, they have basically no legal claim to anything. That doesn't mean that they can't make them, though. I mean, remember, the laws are vague and often contradictory, so it does happen, but legally they really have no claim. However, if they are legitimized, things can get a little muddy regarding whether they follow at the end of the trueborn children line or they join the line in order of birth as if they had been trueborn all along. Here's where Kat's concerns come in. If John were to be legitimized, which is usually done by the father but can also be done by a king, he could fall into line right around Robb's claim. And once a bastard is legitimized, like taking the black, there is no going back. Yeah, I like Mormont, the way Mormont did it, so I follow too. The claims of legitimized bastards can be quite dangerous for trueborn relatives, as we've seen with the Blackfires, the legitimized bastards of King Aegon IV Targaryen, otherwise known as Aegon the Unworthy, their descendants sought to claim the Iron Throne from Aegon's trueborn descendants for generations. I think it's been. I think it was like 5 generations that the Blackfires tried to take the throne.
Well, thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you. Inheritance Law 101. Very useful. So, comparison with the television show, there wasn't a lot. I mean, there's not a lot in the chapter, so there's not a lot to deviate from. But there was no sign of a sept at Castle Black. The whole scene at Castle Black is done in the sparring yard, where we've seen pretty much everything we've seen at Castle Black has been done there.
Okay.
And it was interesting. In the same way, it was weird to see a Godswood in King's Landing in the couple of chapters ago. It was strange to see a sept at the wall.
Right.
But I guess, the faith of the Seven is the main religion of the entire country, and most of the people at the wall are not from the north, so It does make sense that there would be one. Mormont's speech and the assignment of the new members of the Night's Watch to their jobs all took place in the courtyard. When the guys take their vows north of the wall, they are escorted by some nameless members of the Night's Watch who, as in the book, are very pleased for them and hug them and welcome them to the fold. But nobody says, hey, we should be getting back. I feel something's a bit weird here, like Dywyn did in the book. Their celebrations are interrupted by Ghost just coming back with the hand in his mouth.
Okay.
And he just drops it on the floor in front of Jon, and everyone goes, ooh.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So, pedantry, I was just a bit surprised to see that sept in Castle Black, but I guess it does make sense, so it's not pedantry.
Yep, I guess Sept and Celadar need somewhere to do his thing.
Right.
Which is mostly drinking. But he also probably does septon duties as well. So, my bit of pedantry that I referenced earlier was the line, "Any among you who wish to leave our company, if so, go now, and no one shall think less of you." And I was like, WTF, Mormont? Is he punking them? I mean, the criminals clearly don't have a choice, do they? Obviously, it doesn't mean everyone. Criminals couldn't just get up and walk free and be like, whew, well, okay, as long as no one's thinking less of me, I'm just going to head back to my old life here.
I think possibly he skipped over saying, and I'm only talking to Jon and Sam here.
Right. He said, do any of you two?
Yeah, exactly. Because the rest of you really have no choice here. We are not wasting time and effort taking you back south to your dungeon, believe me.
Yeah.
Yes, fair point. So, news and notes, send us your questions for our 50th episode. This is episode 49, right?
Yeah, so please get them in quick. Time is running.
Yeah, so So to be clear about what we're going to do, this is episode 49. We're going to record episode 50 as normal. And then after that, sort of midweek after the 50th episode, we'll put up the 50th episode special.
Yes, be like 50 and a half.
50 and a half, exactly. Yes. So, but you need to be quick. Time is running out. Reach out to us on social media or email us or send us a voice memo.
Yeah, I want some voice memos. We haven't gotten any of those yet. That would be really cool. And we got another Instagram direct message from Kate. Our friend Kate through Instagram.
Hi, Kate.
And it was very well timed, too, considering this is the episode we're talking about. She was curious about the titles in the Night's Watch. She points out that the top steward is called the Lord Steward, but the other two heads of department are First Ranger and First Builder, and she wondered why that is, other than the fact that Lord Builder sounds kind of weird. And I'd have to agree with her. I think she hit the nail on the head with the Lord Steward sounding better than Lord Ranger or Lord Builder. And you couldn't call the head of the Rangers Lord Commander of the Rangers because, like you would with the Lord Commander of the King's Guard, because there's already a Lord Commander at the Night's Watch, and that would get confusing. Although, they are sometimes called First Steward, not Lord Steward. There is a reference to it much later in this story in A Storm of Swords.
Oh, okay. So maybe Lord and First are used sort of casually.
Yes.
Like, in a formal ceremony, they might call Benjamin Stark Lord Ranger.
Maybe, yeah.
Well, it is a good... I hadn't thought of it, but it is a legitimate point. Because it does feel like Lord feels higher than First.
Right, yeah.
In terms of honorific. and yet you would think the stewards might be lower than the rangers.
Right. If there was a hierarchy, you would think the first ranger would be above the Lord Steward, but that's not how the titles sound. Maybe it's kind of like a lieutenant general in the United States Army being above a major general, which I always found odd. So
interesting.
Anyway, thank you, Kate.
Have you heard?
I really.
Have you heard me say that word, by the way?
Yes, I have, but everyone else hasn't.
It isn't funny. That word is lieutenant.
So you say.
It just English is difficult. Some words just are not pronounced the way they look. It's lieutenant general.
You know where I learned that term from? I audiobooked the O'Brien, the Master and Commander series.
Master and Commander, yeah.
And obviously there's a lot of lieutenant talk in that series.
Uh-huh.
What's it called? Master and Commander is like book 23 of that series. I cannot think of what that series is called, though.
I only know that one because of the movie. I haven't read any of them.
They're good.
But the movie, I thought the movie was terrific.
Yeah.
I thought the movie was a terrific book. And I don't particularly like sea-based films. I find them, I don't know, disconcerting.
You get seasick just watching them?
Yeah. But that was a great film.
Yeah.
That really was good.
But thank you, Kate. We always appreciate when you reach out to us. So
let's conclude. It's done. John, despite us haranguing him and telling him a million times not to take the vows, he took the vows.
Yep.
He's a brother of the Night's Watch.
And now Kat's got all she wanted.
Well, apart from Tyrion Lannister.
Right. That didn't go at all as she wanted.
He's escaped.
Yes. But John can't hold lands and titles, and he'll have no children to make claims to the lordship of Winterfell. So
it was interesting what you said. Just coming back to what you said in that in the background. If a king can legitimize a natural born child without the father's consent, for instance, if the father has died, could the king also release him from his Night's Watch vows?
Yes, I believe he can.
Is there precedent, or are you just saying because the king can do whatever he wants?
Oh. It would be a bit of a spoiler for me to say.
Oh. Well, it would be a spoiler for me because I don't remember what the heck you're talking about. So there you are.
I believe he can release him from his vow. I think a king can pretty much do whatever the heck the king wants to do.
Right. So Kat's not completely safe then. This has helped. This has secured her children's position more than they already were secure.
Yes, it would take
but she's
literally
just 2 acts.
Yeah, it would take an act of Congress.
Right.
The executive branch.
No, it would take 2.
Yeah.
It would take 2 because you have to both be released from the Night's Watch vow and legitimized.
Right. That's a good point.
Whereas previously only had to be legitimized.
Yes.
And I guess now Ned can't do it on his own.
Yes, right. Yeah,
Ned could have legitimized.
He could legitimize him, but he can't get him out of the Night's Watch now. So
yeah. Although he is pretty much the police of the Night's Watch, so he could turn a blind eye. Ned.
Right.
Flexible Ned. Turn a blind eye, Ned.
That's what they call him around the place, Blind Eye Ned. The old softy. But John got what he bargained for. He's got to feel pretty good about how he managed to save Sam from the torment that he was looking to face.
Oh, yeah.
And it was also, his plan was solid enough that the upper management was like, yeah, good idea, kid. So that's got to feel good too.
And that could definitely be the reason they went, hey, he's a likely lad. Let's keep him on too.
Right. Yeah, could be. Although, you do have to wonder, does the plan take Sam from one torment to another? It seems like maybe Chett could be upset. Chett certainly wouldn't have the authority that Sir Alistair Thorne has over Sam as a recruit. But
yeah. And I've got to say, if I'm Chett, I'm more mad at John than Sam.
Yeah.
It's not Sam's fault that he's a good fit for it. It's John's fault for telling everyone.
Yeah, tell that to Kat. She seems to be awfully mad at John for something that Ned did. So.
For being born. Yes. So John didn't get what he wanted. He got what he wanted for Sam, but he didn't get what he wanted for himself.
Not so much.
But perhaps it will be a blessing in disguise. I mean, the White Walkers are there north of the wall. You don't want to be a ranger at this time.
Right. It's a good time to be on the south side of the wall.
Exactly.
But I wonder if he was offered, would he rather be Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, or would he rather be First Ranger? Maybe he doesn't want the command of everything. Maybe he would just like to be the head of the military group of it.
I think, from what we know of Jon, he would rather be Lord Commander of the Night's Watch.
Yeah.
Because I think he's handy with the sword and he understands sort of military tactics and things. But I think he's an expansive thinker, and I think he would like the challenges of the builders and the farmers and the stewards and all that. I think he might not think it now at the age of 15, but when he's 22, he might be a better fit for the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch.
Yeah, at 15, he might just still want to run around with the sword and fight things.
Exactly.
But as he gets older, being the Lord Commander looks a lot better.
Yeah.
Sam's wise, no doubt. I mean, coward or whatever you want to call him, he certainly sees things more clearly than most. So.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, let's say something happens to Mormont and to Maester Aemon. Something happening to Maester Aemon is not hard to believe. The man's 100.
Right.
They could be a very young sort of like leadership duo,
right,
for the Night's Watch.
Yeah,
be here for a long, long time and do good things for it.
Yeah,
because I think Sam is an excellent confidant and conspirator with Jon, and also fills in the gaps that Jon misses.
Right. Yeah. He does. They make a good pair. They kind of balance each other out.
Yeah.
They could definitely inject some youthful exuberance into the sea level suite at Castle Black.
Yeah.
If Sam had some self-confidence, you could really see him being a force to reckon with. Yeah, it seems
he'd be a good Lord Commander.
Yeah, it seems to be what holds him back. He's obviously he's not a very good fighter, but aside from that, it's just his lack of confidence. I mean, he was terrified to even speak to Lord Commander Mormont. If this kid grows into a man that has self-confidence, he could really be something special.
Yep. And then, of course, the big question that this chapter leaves us with.
Whose hand is Ghost running around with?
Yes, exactly. Now, in the TV show, I'll say, the book doesn't make it clear, but in the TV show, the hand looked like it had been severed by a sword, not bitten off by Ghost.
Okay, so he just found a hand.
See, yeah, I was playing with this guy. I didn't mean it.
That's why he brought it to them. Like, could you put this back on?
So I guess we'll find out soon enough whose that was, or
yeah,
why a hand was just casually left lying around north of the wall. So, as always, you can reach us at ghost.harrenhal, follow us on Twitter at ghostharrenhal, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Please don't forget to leave us a review. We would greatly appreciate it.
We sure would.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.